What's good, my good people? I'm curious, have you ever thought about starting your own podcast, but you just don't know where to start? If so, I'm about to put y'all on. Have y'all heard about Anchor? Well, if you haven't, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Hold up, let me explain though. First of all, it's free. There's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. How easy is that? Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything, literally everything you need to make a podcast in one place. If you're curious about it, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Now, enjoy the show, y'all. Peace. My good people, welcome back to the Blessed Beyond Measure podcast show. I'm your host, CL The Source. Thank you once again for tuning in to yet another episode. And it has been a while since the last episode was created. This is episode 38 of season 2, and it is actually the finale of season 2. I'm wrapping things up. I just kind of wanted to get on here, share some of the experiences that I've recently had. And also, before I even go any further, I wanted to send a sincere apology to anybody that supports and listens to this podcast and just follows me and really supports me as a human being, because I didn't provide an update before I kind of took a long-winded hiatus. And this episode will go into further detail as to why that was and everything like that. But before even going forward, I definitely wanted to just apologize sincerely from the bottom of my heart, because I did not mean to leave anybody hanging, for sure, and just kind of keep everybody wondering what's been going on with CL. Like, you know, like where'd he go? He's usually been super consistent with what he does and the content that he puts out. And I want y'all to know that everything's all good. Everything's great. Everything's grand. You know, life has just been happening for me at a very fast pace, and I've kind of had to adjust on the fly. And so it's been a lot of good stuff, you know, a lot of new experiences, a lot of meeting new people, networking, building relationships, strengthening old bonds, a lot of experiences for growth, a lot of learning experiences, a lot of great conversations to be had, and just life being lived. So it's been a lot of really great stuff. So just wanted to kind of provide a quick update before I kind of get into the nitty gritty about what's been going on. And in this finale, it's kind of going to be a bang, just because I want to wrap things up on a high note here, of course, before entering season 3. I got a lot of great things cooking up for season 3. You know, we got some new guests coming on board that I'm excited to be working with. I'm going to be bringing back some familiar faces, some familiar guests that y'all got to get a chance to know. And, excuse me. And yeah, it's just been, it's been a crazy time, fun time, exhilarating, also exhausting. And I'm very happy about what's been experienced and everything like that, which again, I'll share with you coming up in further detail in this episode. But also, I'm excited about what's to come. I'm finally back in a place where I'm a lot more grounded, where things have kind of settled in for me a little bit more, so I can get back to focusing in on everything that I've been currently working on, you know, and dedicating more time, effort, energy into my craft, into creating this content for all of you, and just growing as a human being and sharing the process, sharing what's been going on in my life as I've been continuously going on that path and on that journey. I want y'all to come along with me, and it's been a lot of great stuff and more great stuff coming up. Like I always say, the best is yet to come. Excuse me. So, all right, with that being said, kind of want to get into today's episode. I really want to explain some of the stuff that's been going on. I want to go into like a lot more detail And if you didn't already notice, I'm already kind of clearing my voice a little bit. So I have been under the weather for a while now. I've been fighting some sort of virus. It's not COVID. I think it's more due to exhaustion and me just kind of beating my body up. I got to be honest with you guys. I fell back into the same patterns that I used to do when I was damaging my body and when I wasn't really taking care of myself. And, I'm paying the price now. It took me some time to fully recover, and I'm just now starting to feel like myself. Now, rewind here a little bit before I kind of get into that part. The last time I created an episode was, let's see here, it was episode 37, and that was on October 11th. Wow. And today is actually November 23rd. Wow, that is actually longer than I thought. And again, I apologize. It's been crazy for me, but that's longer than I thought. And even though it doesn't feel that long, to be honest with you, like time just sped up for me. There's been a lot going on in my life. And where I last left off, I was talking about what it means to reinvent yourself. And funny enough, I had an opportunity to do some traveling, which is one of the main reasons why it was harder for me to create podcast episodes and really be on social media as much as I was to kind of give you an idea of like what I was going through. I was hired by an outside company to do some work in Seattle, to work with one of my really good friends. He was opening up a brand new account, and it was a brand new arena out in Seattle that was for the hockey team, the franchise hockey team that they have over there, and it's called the Seattle Kraken. And I was hired to basically help set up the account, help stabilize the account, and just get the account off the ground and running. So with that comes a lot of work, a ton of work. Things are so brand new over there. Not all the systems are in place. There's a ton of new people that you're dealing with. It's a lot of planning, a lot of physical work, a lot of conversations, a lot of delegating, a lot of leading. And it's all in all, the experience was one that I'll never forget. I learned a lot about myself. You know what I'm saying? I definitely faced a lot of adversity and moments of questioning myself, of like, wow, what did I sign up for type stuff, and excuse me. And it was definitely an experience that I will always remember. There was a lot of great times, a lot of good times, some times where it had me scratching my head. It had me wondering, like, damn, like, how am I going to get through this, blah, blah, blah. And, I feel like I learned a lot in those moments, because some of the tools that I've been cultivating my whole life, well, actually more recently, especially during the beginning of this pandemic and shelter in place and everything like that, I've really been cultivating tools like patience, understanding, compassion, awareness, doing things from love, really understanding that I'm not in control of so much, but one of the main things I can control is myself and how I respond to situations. And, truthfully, that all helped in these moments of adversity, because I definitely faced some situations where the old me probably would have just like fucking walked away from this shit, or done some shit that like was super questionable and probably jeopardized my whole career and, even damaged relationships. Excuse me once again. Sorry about that. My voice just hasn't been the same ever since that trip. So, please bear with me when it comes to that. I've been really kind of trying to get my voice back in order. I got my cup of tea right in front of me. doing what I need to do to kind of get back to 100%. But anyway, going back to Seattle, I faced all sorts of different challenges that really made me look at life like, damn, everything that I've been studying, everything that I've been learning about in my life recently in terms of just a higher truth, finding peace, maintaining my peace, building upon my peace, was challenged during this whole time in Seattle for sure. And your boy was working crazy long hours, and I gotta also be honest with you, like going out to Seattle, I brought a lot of my stuff that I needed to do to create podcasts, and I had this intent of actually creating episodes out there and remaining active on social media and doing things that I was normally doing prior to getting back to work. And it was, it didn't happen. There were times where I was just too exhausted, and I felt that rather than try to manufacture some energy out of nowhere and give you some half-assed like content and material, I said I'd much rather be well rested. And you know what I said? I gotta take care of the task at hand right now, which was the commitment I made to going back to work and helping my friend set up his account and everything that came along with that. And then when I get back home, I will focus 100% on what I needed to do. You know what I'm saying? For myself, for you, and for everybody else that follows this and that will follow this podcast. And, it was a great experience overall. Like I said, during those moments, I got to strengthen some bonds that I always knew were real bonds between me and my brothers, man. Like, shout out my boy AB, shout out my boy Renan. These are some dudes that are like family to me, like brothers, like literal brothers like that you get to choose. We've been through a lot of stuff together, and this is just something else you can add to the resume. We definitely, we were back in the trenches again, and something about being in the trenches with folks and knowing you can trust them to handle certain situations and have your back and all that stuff really, really strengthens bonds. And it was a really, really fun time. Also within that time, I learned more about my qualities as a leader and how I had to kind of take my time with things, especially when dealing with other people and their needs. I focused on being present when I was with people, listening to them, whatever concerns they had and everything that was going through their minds when they were at work. And it's trust me, it's not for the faint of heart. I was delegating and I was leading a team of almost 50 people with operations all over the place. And, you're placing a lot of trust in people, and you're placing a lot of trust in the systems that you created and in order to carry out a successful event. And we had a ton of events right off the bat at this new arena. It wasn't just hockey events. It was also concerts. It was all sorts of different things. There was private events. So we kind of had to adjust on the fly a lot. We had to adapt. We were running on fumes. I know I was, for sure. I was working almost 16-hour days sometimes. And I'm not saying this looking for pity or anything like that. I'm just merely saying this because I remember, as I reflect back on these times, I remember having to dig deep when I was tired as hell and I didn't want to do nothing no more, and I almost wanted to quit. I had to dig deep, and I had to remind myself, like, hey, you know what? I signed up for this. No one put a gun to my head and said, hey, you got to do this. I signed up for this. Even though my friend asked me and the company hired me, I signed up for this. I chose to be here. So why complain? And there also came a moment where I said, complaining takes about the same amount of energy as it does to uplift yourself, to get yourself in a better frame of mind in order to accomplish the task at hand. So what I ended up doing was, instead of pissing and moaning and crying and complaining like probably the old me would have done, I took a little bit of time to correct my mindset and took some deep breaths, took some time to recharge, even if it was a short amount of time, and I just sucked it up and got the job done. Now, that may not always be the best approach to things, right? Because you also got to listen to your body, you got to listen to yourself. But I'm a firm believer in commitment, and that's something I stand on. If I commit to something, I gotta follow through, because not only will the other person know that, oh, I'm not about that commitment life, but also I'd have to live with that. You know what I'm saying? I'd have to live with the guilt of me just not standing on my word. And I'm doing my best to always follow through on my commitments and stand on my word and build a strong foundation for my word. And I feel like I did that with this trip out to Seattle for sure. I definitely, like I mentioned several times already in this episode, faced some adversity. Definitely, it stretched me. It was uncomfortable. It was painful at times. And I think clearly it had a lot to do with how I'm feeling right now. It took me some time to really kind of get back to close to 100%. I'm not quite fully there yet, but I'm at a place where it's manageable and I'm getting better every day and I'm doing the things better. I've also committed myself to some personal commitments that I'm going to see through, and I'm going to kind of get into that right now, actually, when I get into what happened next. So I spent about 3.5-4 weeks out in Seattle. And then after all the work that consumed most of my time over there, I ended my trip in Houston, Texas, for one of my really good friends' bachelor party. And I was with a lot of my brothers, all of my brothers actually, and really, really good friends that known each other for a long time. We've been through a lot together, and we were there in celebration of my homie that is getting married next year. And we, not to get too into detail about this, but obviously when we're hosting a bachelor party, we're there to make sure that the groom to be is having a good time. So with that being said, you can imagine a lot of the different a lot of the different types of things we were doing in order to have fun. And I briefly mentioned it earlier before I kind of kicked off this segment. I mentioned that I kind of reverted back to my old ways. So the current state of who I am, I don't really partake in too much drinking, too much partying, too much smoking, none of that stuff. But when I was out there in Houston, Texas, and even at points out there in Seattle, I was partaking in some drinking, some heavy drinking, a little bit of drug usage, and these were the old patterns that I haven't really kind of participated in so long, so that my body was so unfamiliar with these substances that I think that's also a huge reason. Well, I know it's also a huge reason as to why I'm not even close to 100% yet, and it's almost been 3 weeks since I've been back from that trip. So yeah, it's crazy because it taught me a lot. It taught me about what I realized is that I would never even I would never treat someone that I love the way that I was treating my body when I was out there. Meaning, I was abusing my body. I was damaging it by the intake of alcohol that I was taking in, the drug usage, the lack of sleep, the lack of water, the lack of food, and just staying up late, not paying attention to how exhausted I was, allowing certain things to kind of affect my mental health. And, I want to give myself a pass for, being out there on a bachelor party because that comes along with it. But at the same time, I am fully aware of what I did to myself. And in those moments where I felt like shit, hungover and everything like that, I really came to conclusions that this is not what I want to continue to do for myself. And, I, in respect to the moment, I had a lot of fun out there. I had some great times and created so many great memories. And at the same time, coming back home just made me feel so grateful after such a long trip away from home, away from my bed, away from my family, away from my dog, away from my friends, away from everything I know, my comfort zone. And it was a harsh reminder, even though I had a lot of fun, it was a harsh reminder as to, what I have here and what I'm building here. And it made me just so grateful. It made me so appreciative of everything that I have, all the love that I have, the resources that I have over here. And it just made me a lot more focused in terms of what it is that I need to do and what I want to do. And the trip was fun. So we were there for my boy's bachelor party, as I mentioned, but I was also there for Astroworld. And if you're unfamiliar with what was going on at Astroworld, it's a music festival. It's an all-day music festival. It was actually a 2-day music festival that's headlined by Travis Scott. And, there was a lot of great artists that I was looking forward to seeing over there. And I just kind of want to get into the description of what happened at Astroworld. And also, before I do that, if you haven't already kind of heard about what happened at Astroworld, there was a lot of tragedies that happened. I believe it was 8 or 9 people that lost their lives due to different reasons. And but mostly because it was a very turbulent type of festival. Travis Scott's music is reminiscent of like a rock festival where there's mosh pits, people are violent, there's a lot of drug usage, there's a lot of alcohol consumption, there's a lot of just mixed energies, and you're just crammed into this space, as well as having this music that's just high energy, and it's there's a lot of potential for clashing for sure. A lot of jumping around. And then on top of that, it's all day affair. So people are exhausted. People are, not only partaking in the drug usage and alcohol consumption, but also they're not really taking care of themselves in regards to drinking enough water, eating enough food, stuff like that. So you can imagine there's a lot of craziness that goes on at some of these festivals, and that's precisely what happened with this festival. And some unfortunate events really occurred, and it's really, really sad to hear. And I'm going to kind of just give y'all a detailed kind of look at my perspective from this whole Astroworld festival. So day one started off, and man, it was a ton of people. I don't even know the exact numbers of how many people were on these festival grounds. And what ended up happening was I saw a bunch of people running towards this fence, and it seemed like they had busted down the fences and just rushed the door, and thousands of people probably got into this festival that didn't pay for the festival, that didn't get through health checks, that just trampled other people just to get in. And it happens a lot at these festivals. It happens a lot at raves and even concerts, I'm sure, where they find a weak point in the security and they just attack it, and a flood of people just come in. So with that being said, the festival itself was already sold out. It was a huge event. It was something that was being planned for a long time. I believe it was Travis Scott's second go around with the Astroworld Festival, so it was going to be like a bigger festival. I could be wrong. It might even be like maybe 3 or 4 years in, but either way, it was something I was definitely looking forward to. I'm a huge fan of Travis Scott. I'm a huge fan of a lot of the artists that I've seen on there. There was some cool artists that I definitely got to see, and I wish I got to see. But some of them being Don Toliver, who's one of my favorite artists right now, young up-and-coming artist out of Houston, Texas. I saw my boy Roddy Ricch. I saw SZA, who was amazing. And then obviously I got to see Travis Scott, and then also Travis Scott brought out Drake, which was huge because I'm a huge fan of both of their music and them as artists and as individuals in particular. But either way, there was going to be day 2, and I was looking forward to seeing like 21 Savage, Earth, Wind and Fire, and there was like Master P. There was like some other Young Thug. There were some other artists that I was definitely looking forward to seeing, but day 2 got canceled because of the tragedies that I kind of briefly described. 8 people losing their lives. I think they got trampled. Apparently there were reports of some people drugging people, poking people in the neck with some sort of drug, and it just was chaos. But from my perspective, I did have some moments of chaos, like early in the day when I was watching Don Toliver perform his set. The mosh pit got pretty close to where I was at, me and a group of friends where I was at. So when that happens, the people in the kind of surrounding area get pushed back, and they got pushed back into me, and I was all the way in the back because my old ass is not getting deeper into that crazy ass crowd just because I'm not about that life. I'm not doing that shit. I'm telling y'all right now, that's just not a wise move on my part. To each their own. If that's what folks want to do, then so be it. But that was something that I was not willing to do. But anyway, when the show came on, obviously the energy ramped up a whole lot, and people were just going crazy, jumping up and down. They rushed the stage. And then what ended up happening was, I think the people that settled up at the front, they no longer wanted to be there, so they were trying to get out. They didn't expect that it was going to be that crazy, so they were trying to get out. So now you're getting a mixture of people rushing the stage, mosh pitting, and then people trying to exit too in this very tight space. Picture being stuck on a crowded elevator, like where you're just jam-packed, and the elevator goes out, and you can't move. And that's really kind of the situation now I was going through early on in the day. There was a point where I was anxious. I was starting to feel claustrophobic. I was starting to feel like angry. I was starting to feel like why the fuck am I here? And I started to feel these emotions pop up in my head, like fuck. And I was stuck. I couldn't move. And then, something clicked. Something clicked where I just told myself, regardless of what's going on here, I signed up for this. I came here. I chose to be here. Why be mad? Why be angry? This is what I chose to do. Again, no one put a gun to my head and told me that I need to be here. I chose this. I paid for this. So it was very reminiscent of what happened in Seattle when I was going through all that adversity over there. Obviously, it's a different type of adversity, but it's adversity nonetheless. And there was a point where I just said, fuck it. I'm here. I'm going to make the best of the situation. Why complain? And just fucking live it up. And I ended up switching my mindset, and that made a huge difference, because rather than being angry and, get violent like the old me probably would have, I just enjoyed. I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna just jump up and down to this music. I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna get the people around me to have fun too. And also, something that was funny that I did was, because we were getting pushed around so much, I kind of rallied up the people that are around me, because I broke up with my group, like with my group of friends. We kind of just got pushed away, and it was crazy. So I was around a couple of my friends, but some of my other friends were, I don't even know where they were at. But there were some moments where I had to rally up the people around me. I said, hey, all right, y'all, like, we not going to just let people push us. We not just going to let people trample us. So we got to get active, right? Like, so I rallied them up, and I was like, hey, y'all, we not letting nobody push us. So on 3, we're going to push back. 1, 2, 3, push. And then we was just pushing. And next thing you know, we started swaying. We all started having hella fun. Everybody around started having hella fun. You start seeing people smiling more. Start people having a good time, feeling the music, really enjoying the moment. And then eventually, once the music stopped and things calmed down, everybody kind of, dispersed, and a lot of space opened up, and it was back to being fun again. And it made me realize that life is like that. It can get turbulent, it can get hectic, it can get chaotic, it can get all these things, it can get wild, it can feel like it's just madness all around us. But then you get these moments and these pockets of peace. You get these pockets of normalcy, whatever that means to you. You get these pockets of these great experiences of life, and it's just, all in all, that's the experience. There's ups, downs, lefts, rights, all sorts of different directions that life is going to throw us into. And really, that is the experience of life. And you can't, the only thing you really can do is change your perspective on what's going on. And that's where the power lies, I feel like. Because sometimes, actually most oftentimes, there's so much out of your control. Like in that situation, I couldn't control all these people, coming my way, pushing me, this and that, or us being jam-packed in a tight space like that. But what I could control is how I looked at it, how I approached it. And when I did do that, when I switched it to how I wanted to look at it as a good thing, that I was here, that I was just going to have fun, then everything changed for me. And my entire experience changed. And it was a great time. I look back at that situation as a really, really fun time. And although, later on, or the next day, actually, I found out about all those tragedies, it was really tough to kind of hear about that. I was deeply saddened. I was deeply affected by it, and people were reaching out to me like, "Are you okay? Like, I know you're at the Astroworld Festival. Like, are you good? Are you good? Like, is everything okay with you? Are you harmed?" And fortunately, thank God, I wasn't. Neither was any of me and my friends. So, and we didn't get into any fights, and there were none of that stuff happened, and we were all good. My friends we were safe. We all got home together. We were able to continue the weekend, and it was crazy. Watching Travis Scott and Drake perform was a super dope highlight. And unfortunately, all that stuff happened, and I didn't know at the time, because I was on the far outskirts this time around, because I just did not want to get I just did not want to get washed up into all of that craziness that goes on over there. And thankfully, I made that decision to kind of stay more on the outskirts, because who knows, I could have been one of those people that lost their lives. And with that being said, there were a couple moments during that festival where I came to the realization that, if I do end up dying from this shit, from the craziness or whatever happens, like, I just accept that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna obviously go down with it. I'm not gonna go down without a fight type shit or whatever like that. But and I'm gonna fight for my life. But if indeed this time is indeed my time to go, then I had to accept that. And so with that being said, when I made that decision that, like, if I do end up dying, I said, fuck it, I'm gonna have as much fun as I can have, and I'm just gonna fucking live my life, and I'm just gonna enjoy, because if I do ultimately die, I'd rather go out on a high note. And that was something also that taught me a lot, because that impermanence of life, or that just, we never know when we're going to die. And we're all going to eventually pass away at some point in our life. We just don't know when. But it just made me realize how finite our time is on this planet, on this earth, and in this life, in this body. And it just made me realize that I want to take advantage of as many moments as possible and do things that matter to me, do things that I love doing, and be around the people that I love, and try not to be so caught up in negativity or anger or any of that stuff, or even in fear, because our life is so short. We hear it all the time, so that made me realize that too. And but it was a wild weekend. It was a wild time. It was a wild trip. I reverted back to my old ways in a lot of different ways, and it was exhausting. It was taxing on my body for sure, and I'm definitely paying for it now. And but again, I feel like I'm closer to 100% than I was when I first got back, and I'm just thankful that I have time to kind of recuperate, rejuvenate myself, and also Also, I just kind of, I'm just happy. I'm happy that nobody was harmed. I'm happy to be back. And now that I'm back, not only have I recovered almost fully, but I've also got a lot of great things cooking up over here too. I'm back to work with the Golden State Warriors. If you don't know, I work with the Golden State Warriors. There's a couple of complications that I'm ironing out at the moment and everything like that, but it's great to be back in that environment, and just seeing a lot of familiar faces with everything kind of going on with the pandemic shutting stuff down. I was on the shelf for almost a year and a half, basically a year and a half, almost 2 years, and it's been a huge time for adjustment for me, because it's been so long since I had to really go at full speed and work and do things like that where it's physical, and be present with a lot of other people, dealing with a lot of different situations, putting out fires, utilizing my own personal resources to help contribute to the success of the whole entire operation type stuff. So it's depleting in that regard, but it's also refreshing to be back, and it also feels great to be back and working with the team again. And I'm excited. So that's something that I'm definitely hyped up about. I'm definitely looking forward to continuing to build upon. And as far as the podcast and the brand that I'm building, I now am back into my fold. I can start to spend more time, more energy, and get back into that creative space that I love to be in, and really build my network more and more over here. So with season 3 around the corner, kind of want to give y'all an idea of what's to come. I got some great guests. I'm not going to drop who I'm having on this podcast, but I got some great guests coming up that y'all are going to really enjoy. I have some amazing solo episodes with some great content that I've already kind of been cooking up in my own mind. And I'm just going to continue to share what I got going on in terms of the growth, and in hopes that helps you out. You know what I'm saying? I want everything that I talk about to be relatable, and I want it to be able to help you. And hopefully everything that I spoke about within the meat and potatoes of this episode, hopefully that helps you out and in some sort of way or some sort of fashion. And, in conclusion, I just realized that life throws so many curveballs at you, and you have to be ready to adjust and adapt. And the way to get ready is to stay ready, to just be in the flow of things, to just always be aware of what's going on, how you fit into the equation, and just trusting yourself and continuing to cultivate these tools within yourself to help you find out more about yourself, to become the best version of yourself continuously, and aspire to just be better every day, and for me, it was really, really good to know that I can access these different parts of who I was, and I can apply it to different situations. You know what I mean? Like, all the experiences that I've had in my life help me triumph over a lot of these adversities that I faced, and it was a great test. I learned a lot. I'm happy to have experienced all of it. I'm blessed in so many different ways, and so are you. And we're all blessed. That's something that I always try to remind people of. And if I haven't said that recently, or if you haven't heard that recently on one of my episodes over here, one of the main reasons why I even call my podcast the Blessed Beyond Measure podcast is because I want to remind you just how blessed you are. If you're able to access this and listen to this, that tells me you got a phone. That tells me you have some access to money. You have the bare essentials, probably even more than the bare essentials. And that in itself is a huge blessing. It's something to be grateful for. And you can always do more. If you want more, there's always a path to getting what you want or doing what you want to do. So just keep that in mind, and, keep moving forward. Keep living your life. Keep being open. Keep putting out the energy that you wish to receive, and it will come. And I am a walking example of that. I'm a living example of that, because when I've changed my perspective on things, and I've chose to put out good energy, more oftentimes than not, good energy has returned back to me. And I'm going to continue doing that, and in hopes of inspiring others and living a fulfilling life, and a life worth living. But with that being said, I'm going to wrap up today's episode. I thank y'all so much for tuning in. This is a longer-winded episode, so if you made it all the way to the end, I sincerely appreciate y'all. And Season 2 has been great bringing to you. I can't believe I did 38 episodes in Season 2. So I'm about to kick off Season 3 here in just a little while, working on things, and be on the lookout for that. And be on the lookout for a lot of exciting stuff that I got going on with the podcast, with the brand. You can find all the updates on Instagram, on Twitter. On Twitter, I'm at BBMPodLife. On Instagram, I'm on at Blessed Beyond Measure Podcast. You'll find out all the updates of the recent episodes, the latest episodes, all the new things that I got cooking up. And then you'll just get a lot of great doses of positivity and love on that thing. You know what I'm saying? That I'm going to continuously always share. And just try to be a beacon of light in a world that needs it more now than ever, I feel like. So, with that being said, thank you again for tuning in. I love y'all. Stay up, stay safe, and stay blessed, y'all. Big love. Peace.